Welcome back to the First Team. I'm Joe DeLeone. With me is my co-host, NFL draft analyst for A to Z Sports, Ryan Roberts. Today we're going to be dropping our summer scouting big board. Our summer scouting efforts kind of getting closed down a little sooner than we thought because the season's right here. We want to focus our attention on watching film for the season. We didn't get to some of the guys that we wanted to, but nonetheless, we're going to close things out with a big board on today's show. The top 25 prospects, a consensus big board. We took each other's big boards, we put them together, we mushed them together into one grouping. We're going to go through that list today. Ryan, I got to point out the one thing that kind of stands out to me, and it's not like it's not obvious. We have one quarterback on here. That's it. One quarterback.
Yeah. I keep talking with people about this, Joe, and it's funny. Like I'm obviously not going to go over the top on Shedeur Sanders versus North Dakota State because that's just a 1-game sample size against an FCS opponent. But he did show a lot of good signs this past week, which was good to see as far as kind of his maturation. But it's just not a good quarterback class. I mean, it just really isn't right now. There's a lot more question marks than answers. We'll talk about Carson Beck, obviously. I'm mentioning Shedeur Sanders here. There's going to be some. Yeah. There's going to be guys like Connor Wakeman and Riley Leonard and some guys that can make ascensions potentially, Jackson Dart. But right now, this is just a quarterback class that doesn't have a lot of answers as of today.
Lot of uncertainty, and it feels like Carson Beck's the only guy that there is at least an inkling of certainty because his floor is the highest. And that's the one thing that I keep using as a descriptor with him is that super high floor prospect. And there's a potential he could be the first guy drafted because of that, because there is a little bit more of understanding of what you're getting yourself into. But we'll talk about when he gets up. I'm going to start us off here, though, Ryan, by reading through who we've got at 25 through 19. Let's go up to 19 here to start. So first at number 25, we have Ashton Jey, the running back from Boise State. Number 24 is Princely Umami-Ellen, the edge rusher from Florida. Number 23, Patrick Payton, the edge rusher from Florida State. Number 22, Siobhan Ravel, cornerback from ECU. Number 21, Tedero McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. And then 20, Tyler Booker, interior offensive lineman, Alabama. We only have one running back in here, and that is Ashton Jey. I think that I feel pretty confident about that. If there is one guy who goes in the first round, it's going to be Ashton Jey. There's other good guys that are good. There's other running backs that have some pretty good traits, but he feels like he's the most diverse of this bunch.
I just think in today's game, you need to be really good in space, but you also need to be able to catch the football consistently. And that's what I'm missing with a lot of these running backs is that Ashton Jey, who went to Lone Star High School in the state of Texas, he was a all-conference, all-area wide receiver as a junior. He literally didn't play running back full-time until his senior year. And you look at him, a little over 5'8", 217 pounds. He's dense. He's physical, great contact balance, good explosiveness. I don't think he has a great I don't think he has great long speed. I don't think he has a great second and third gear, but it's sufficient enough. And he's a great receiver out of the backfield. Some people like Quinshon Judkins, but the pass game upside, I think, is a little bit limited. Some people like Ollie Gordon. I don't think his pass game upside is as much as a guy like an Ashton Jey, obviously. I think that difference as an all-around back is what separates Ashton Jey in this class for me. I think he is one of the better all-purpose backs that we've seen come out in the last few years.
Other guy that we have to touch on really quickly here, we've gone deep on Siobhan Ravel, and I think that people know that we're big fans of him. Patrick Payton feels pretty safe where we have him, but I'm starting to wonder if he ends up being a little bit of a faller with the way that he played.
First game was ugly
against George State. I don't know if that's an overreaction or not, but the concerns were he's got good power for being a thinner edge rusher. How is he going to play with more body weight? He adds more body weight. He doesn't really look very powerful or aggressive or physical, and he got pushed around, and he also didn't really have any sack production. So I'm starting to think that is going to be an early faller throughout this process.
It could be. I mean, like the game against Yellow Jackets was kind of it was a little bit of a raising of the antenna on him because, like you said, he didn't make an impact in the passing game, but you could look past that if he does the little things well. And it wasn't even, Joe, that I thought his power was below average or that his strike, initial contact, like all that type of stuff was bad. it was that his effort was bad against Georgia Tech, man. Like, he just got washed, and it just seemed like he was completely okay with getting washed in certain running plays. So he's a guy that I think he's going to be a volatile prospect. He's going to be a divisive prospect. There's going to be a lot of varying opinions on him. I think one guy that we have a little bit of a lower opinion on in that grouping that some people are going to be a little bit upset with, and I started the conversation this week at A to Z Sports when I'm talking about the cautionary tale of catch point receivers. We're a little bit lower on Teteroa McMillan compared to the consensus. So what was he, 21 on the list, you said? Was he 21, Teteroa?
Yes, 21.
So he's 21. He was actually 30 on my board. So, like, he's a little lower down. I still think he's a good player.
He was 12 on mine. That's how he made it into this top 25.
Joe, he's just I love the baseline of being able to win in the air, but the more I watch of Teteroa, the more I'm like, can he separate in any other area on the NFL level consistently? Like, he's going to run routes. He's going to get open occasionally, right? But I don't think he's ever going to separate with foot speed, be able to create vertically. He is going to be an interesting player because he's either going to be Mike Evans or he's going to be N'Keal Harry. Like, I don't know which one it's going to be, man.
God, I hate using that as the descriptor, but you're 100% right.
Or maybe I'll say Josh Doxson instead of N'Keal Harry.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm saying that, like, I'm not criticizing you for using that as the descriptor. It just feels so dirty for his name to get brought up. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's just, I feel like there's not a lot of middle ground with Teteroa. Like, either it's going to translate just fine, or it's not going to translate well, and we're just going to be like, I'm not sure about this one. Like, I don't know. It's going to be a weird prospect to continue to watch.
Well, I was glad that you wrote that article because it was something that I brought up on the show at one point. He's a dinosaur. He is physically and conceptually. Physically, yeah, he's huge. He's got huge arms. He's enormous compared to these defensive backs. They don't know how to play him. Except if you keep up with him, sometimes you can take away from him there. And some of these taller, longer corners, like a Tariq Woolen, is going to be able to win against a guy like Teteroa McMillan. They're few and far between in the NFL. Sauce Gardner, somebody who's physical, who comes to mind, who's got good length and good size, probably going to win against Teteroa McMillan. But he's also a dinosaur in the sense that a lot of NFL teams have moved away from this body type because most NFL offenses just don't use him. They just don't use these catch point, box out, jump ball target type guys. And we've already seen, like, Drake London has been good for the Falcons, but his production hasn't been tremendous. It hasn't been built up to being a top 10 pick. So I, again, continue to come back to, I had him at 12. I feel a little dirty about that for having all this time to think about it, for how long ago I watched him. Part of me thinks he might also end up being a guy who falls a little bit.
It could be, and because it seems like the NFL is pretty high on him. But, like, again, I'm just kind of curious to see, especially with, like, juniors being eligible for All-Star games. Like, if he goes to an All-Star game and he kind of struggles to create separation on the national stage, I'm just interested to see, because your point of Drake London is fair, but I would also counter with, like, Drake London was a much better separator as far as a route runner compared to Teteroa. So it's a little bit of a still apples to oranges comparison outside of the size.
All right, let's go to 19. We'll go all the way down to 11 with this grouping. Number 19. Jonah Savanea was number 19, the Arizona tackle / guard. Dante Trader Jr., the safety, at number 18 from Maryland. Dante Corleone, 17, defensive tackle from Cincinnati. 16, Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle from Texas. 15, Dion Walker, interior defensive lineman from Kentucky. 14, Colston Loveland, tight end, Michigan. 13, Harold Perkins, linebacker, LSU. Mecca Ibuka, wide receiver, Ohio State, was number 12. 11, Will Campbell, LSU. So my high ranking on Will Campbell pushed him up a ton. Actually, we weren't that far off, actually, on him. Because you had him at 13.
I had him at 13, yeah. Well, Will Campbell, I feel like I was painted as a person that hated Will Campbell, when in reality, I was not a person that hated Will Campbell. I just think that there's a ceiling on Will Campbell compared to some other guys. Like, that's my only thing, right? And that we're going to talk about the arm length stuff. I've been told it's sub 33, and there's a very small outlier list of guys that have been good in the NFL at that offensive tackle spot. So he's an interesting one. You know, the one that you really bolstered up this list, though, Joe, if I do say so, I had Dion Walker at 24, which means you had Dion Walker very high.
Five. I had him at 5.
5.
I still stand by Dion Walker is so freaking rare. And I'm sorry that like maybe I'm over summer scouting, I'm overvaluing rarity and him being so different.
We never overvalue rarity in scouting. That is something that you always search for. So you don't overvalue rarity. I disagree completely on that.
Wait, what do you... You're saying that I should look for rarity?
No, you were saying that maybe you're overvaluing rarity, and I would counter very strongly and say you can never overvalue rarity. That is something you are searching for in scouting.
Yes. With that in mind, for him to have the size of a gap-plugging interior defensive lineman,
right,
to be able to move as lightly as he can as a pass rusher, is extremely enticing. I see the upside of if he gets better flexibility and plays with lower pad level in the run game, how dominant he can be. And I think that the flexibility, or not the flexibility, the fluidity and the foot speed and his dangerous spin move, all those things presents upside as a pass rusher. It's hard to find balance and being able to be good at two things as a defensive tackle these days. He's one of the few ones that I would rush to make the pick for.
He's a top 25 player in the class for me. So obviously I still like Dion Walker, but I don't think that we can just so easily say if he just improves his pad level and plays consistently lower on every snap,
but that's his only issue, really. Like
that's like his major issue, Joe. That's a major issue. That's like saying, hey, if that offensive tackle just didn't bend at the waist, he'd be great. It's like, well, yeah, but that's a big issue to kind of overcome.
It's not that he's unflexible, though. He just plays too high. He's a little too heavy,
and he's chubby. Yeah, he's bad weight on his frame. I'm cautious with him. I'm cautious. Maybe it's Jordan Davis. Maybe it's a couple of the other guys that we've seen that just haven't been able to fix the weight issues, to fix the playing low issues. But there's something uneasy about Dion Walker for me. I see the upside. I think that if you ask me how high, what is his upside in this class? Like completely get rid of just the on-field, what you see today, and we're just grading off of pure upside. If everything hits, he's a top 10 player in this class for sure, maybe top 5 player. Like he's a rare body type and profile, but I'm missing the down-to-down consistency. I'm missing the run game impact all the time because I just think that pad level is an issue right now. It's an issue.
We both had Colston Loveland pretty high. He ends up finishing at 14 on our consensus list here. I'm trying to think how I want to describe this. He's a good player. It feels weird he ended up so high because I feel like we talked about him and we liked him. We didn't necessarily hype him up, but here he is in a similar kind of projection range of where he could get drafted as Brock Bowers was. And I think Brock Bowers was a much better prospect than Colston Loveland is, but he continues to get love is basically the point I'm trying to make here.
Loveland getting the love, eh? I mean, that's happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry, I'm sorry. There's gonna be so many bad puns about Loveland's name in this class. But yes, he is not Brock Bowers. He is nowhere near Brock Bowers. Joe, you know what I thought in the past class? Brock Bowers was the best player in that class, regardless of position.
Yeah, that was how I had it graded. Yeah.
Brock Bowers was tremendous. I think that he was the best tight end that has come out in several years. That includes Kyle Pitts. That includes whoever else you want to throw into the table. He was phenomenal. Colston Loveland is not quite that guy. I have a early second round grade on him, and he's the number 19 player for me in this class. I think that he has a plus starter level player on the next level. Maybe could be a Pro Bowler if developed properly. He's really good in and out of his breaks. He's a good straight line athlete. I think the blocking is fine. It's passable. It's not great, but it's passable. And I think he has a decent catch radius. I don't see dynamic elite athlete like a Brock Bowers. He is definitely not in that tier for sure.
I think what's also going to benefit him coming from a usage situation at Michigan where it's going to translate to the NFL. He's not one of these guys that's just playing in a pure spread scheme. He's not Evan Ingram. He's not Bryson Nesbitt where you're just ask him to go play.
Pro Bowl tight end Evan Ingram. Are we being serious about
Evan
that?
Ingram. This channel's just turning into me bitching about being a Giants fan. I moved back to New Jersey and I'm just becoming the cynical Giants fan that I used to be.
I think the key point that you just hit on is that everything that leaves the New York Giants realm turns into good. It turns into gold. Evan Ingram's a Pro Bowl tight end down in Jacksonville.
All right,
oh, man. Just gotta leave the fandom. You just gotta get rid of the Giants stuff.
Apparently, Daniel Jones will win the MVP. He'll win the MVP if
he a Jets fan
ends up somebody else.
Yeah.
10 through 6. We got Benjamin Morrison, the cornerback from Notre Dame at 10. Number 9, Denzel Burke, cornerback from Ohio State. Wait, how is he number 9? Okay, I guess he's number 9. That's crazy.
Because I had him at 11. He's number 11.
You had him at 11. I didn't have him in my top 25, but okay. All right.
I think your math might be a little off of that one, buddy.
He's the only one for some reason the math that I did just didn't math itself up. Nick Scourton was at number 8. Number 7 was Abdul Carter. And number 6 was Carson Beck.
I mean, Nick Scourton's too low. I mean, that's my initial thought.
Yeah. I had him at 13. I think that's why he got driven down so far.
I like Carson Beck. Carson Beck is number 8 on my list. He has a late first round grade. I like Carson Beck in a vacuum, but Nick Scourton's a better football player than Carson Beck is in a vacuum because we're not diving in. Like, these grades aren't boosted with positional value. Nick Scourton has to be higher than Carson Beck right now. Has to be.
Yeah, and I think the just the general ceiling for both these prospects, like Carson Beck can be Jared Goff. He can be
Kirk Cousins,
really just
something like that. Yeah.
And that's why he's the only quarterback who made our list, is to have that value at quarterback and to have certainty. It's hard to come by. Team like the Giants fan, that's going to be looking for a new quarterback this year. That's what I'd love to have. Not volatility.
I heard Daniel Jones had a great preseason. I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry.
Who in their right mind said that? Who in their right mind said that?
Nobody.
But Scourton, though, the power, the build for him, how dominant he could be, man, he could be an all-pro player. He is that gifted potentially. I'm surprised he ended up at 13 for me. I'm surprised he wasn't a little bit higher.
He's number 5 for me, so he's a top 5 player in this class. Look, man, I just think at 6'4", 285, he's everything that you would expect him to be at 6'4", 285, the power profile he has. But then he's everything you don't expect him to be at 285 pounds. I mean, this kid has twitch. This kid has some bend to him. This kid has the finesse and nuance to the game that gets me super excited. So, yes, he should be higher on your list. You suck.
Okay, next. Benjamin Morrison, though, last guy I want to get to in this grouping, ended up being higher for me in my corner grouping. Denzel Burke pushed his way up because you were high on Denzel Burke. I got to just bring up, I feel like I still am hung up on Denzel Burke's inability to play man. I just don't think he's going to be a man corner. I think that Benjamin Morrison gets a little bit stronger. I can feel a little bit better about him. I kind of see the projectability as him being one of the best cover corners in the NFL if he hits a ceiling.
He has the upside as far as a pure coverage player. The play strength just bothers me right now. Like, I'm a big corner play strength guy. I don't know if people have noticed that on this channel, but like, I've fallen for JC Horn and Devin Witherspoon and like those types of dudes because they play above their weight, their area code, right? Like, they are incredibly imposing players. I just think Denzel Burke's that guy. Like, yes, is he the most fleet of foot in terms of changing direction? No, but I would also argue, Joe, that like JC Horn wasn't the greatest change of direction dude of all time either, and stuff works out. I mean, Jalen Ramsey also wasn't the craziest change of direction dude of all time. I understand the concerns, and to be honest, the NFL seems to be more on the wavelength of you right now. I mean, we had like Dane Brugler that put out his top 50, right? And I think Denzel was like number 30 for him, so like he's still like in that first round conversation, but some people I do think are a little lower on him than I am, but I'm just betting on that physicality and that tenaciousness and that dog mentality, man. I think he has it, and I think you need it at the cornerback position.
Our 5 through 1 was like super spot on with the consensus right here, with a couple of names getting shuffled around a little bit. But our 5 through 1 was Luther Burden, wide receiver from Missouri, Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan, Travis Hunter, cornerback from Colorado was number 3. Number 2 was... No, wait. Number 3 was James Pierce Jr. I read 26 guys. I'm a dumbass. I just realized that. Luther Burden was number 6. Mason Graham was number 5. The defensive tackle from Michigan. If anyone can't tell if I'm completely discombobulated this week, this is proof. Travis Hunter was number 4 from Colorado. James Pierce Jr. was number 3, the edge rusher from Tennessee. Number 2 was Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan. And then number 1 was Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia.
The top 3 was exactly how I have it in my list. I literally have Starks, Johnson, Pierce in my top group as well in the list that I sent you. So, yeah.
Yeah, mine was slightly different. Mm-hmm. I had Starks at 4, and it was stemmed from the Travis Hunter rarity. And okay, look, this is, and I already got asked this question on a radio spot.
Yeah.
What position is he? Like, that's the problem that we're going to get into. I still stand by he is a cornerback who's going to get reps at receiver. That's what he is. And if he played more full-time corner, he could be the best corner in the NFL. I still really stand by that.
You know what he is, Joe. I have actually had a text debate about this as well. And actually, it actually wasn't much of a debate because we all kind of see the same wavelength here. Travis Hunter is going to want to play wide receiver because wide receivers get paid more money, just flat out. Like, that's going to be a thing. Yeah. He's a very talented wide receiver, as we saw in the game against North Dakota State. He could be a good wide receiver on the NFL level. But, and I will maintain this, and I was literally just texting with an area scout who kind of sees things similarly here. There are a few Travis Hunters in the NFL at wide receiver. There's a few of them. There's just not many of them at corner in the NFL, man. Like, he's just a rarer
That's my whole point.
Football player at corner than he is at wide receiver. So although the money in a vacuum might be higher, I would argue that you might be looking at it the wrong way. Because if I'm telling you that he is one of many or one of several at one spot and one of one at the other, one of one is going to end up making more money than one of several. I'm telling you that that's going to happen. The market is going to catch up that way. So I think he's a corner on the next level. Would I be okay? And I was talking like Corey Kinnan, and Corey Kinnan's like, play him a corner and just let him play like 10 snaps at wide receiver a game. Yeah. Like, cool. That's fine. Whatever. He can play wide receiver and he can do it really well, but I still think his best spot in the NFL is on the defensive side of the ball.
And the point that I've started bringing up is that an offense can find a bunch of second, third, fourth rounders, aged free agents, and put together a receiving group that is productive. The Chiefs are example number 1 of this, that they have put together a group of guys that fit with what they need skill set wise, and they can get them to go out there and produce.
Fill roles. They fill the role that they need. Yeah.
Sometimes the most talented receivers are not always the most important for a team. Mm-hmm. For a team's perspective and a roster building perspective, you can't get and take a lesser athlete at corner and get him to produce at the same level of that of an all-pro. Guys fit into some rare categories because they're rare athletes in the NFL. There is not a way to overcome those traits. At receiver, you can overcome those traits with scheme. You can. You can't do that at corner. So there's so much more value in having the most rare athlete in the NFL playing a harder position that requires more natural athleticism.
Yeah.
He's also got better instincts at corner too.
Yeah, I just think he's a potentially a Pro Bowler at wide receiver, maybe, but I think he's an All-Pro at corner. Like, I think that's the differentiator there, right? So, yes, there are some 6 foot and an eighth, 180-something pound wide receivers out there that can do a lot of what Travis Hunter can do in the NFL. There just aren't a lot of the guys that have the length that he has, the explosiveness, the change of direction that he has on the defense side of the ball. I mean, it's that simple. So, the rarer athletes on the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to ask him to do that. And if you want to sprinkle in some wide receiver reps occasionally, that's fine. But I do think corner should be the focus on next level.
We had some differences at number 1, but we were pretty similar.
You had Pierce?
With James Pierce. Yeah, I had Travis Hunter at number 1. I had Pierce at 2, Will Johnson at 3. Yes, I told you this.
You're a bad man.
I am a bad man. I see the projectability, man. Best player in the NFL once he steps into the NFL. I think that there's such a kid. Not the second he steps in the NFL, but like in a couple of years of him being in the NFL and committing to one position, I think he could be. James Pierce Jr., though, it seems like we're kind of in agreement here, even though not like naturally everybody thinks he's the best edge rusher, which I don't get. I still don't get that. The way that he can bend and the length that he has.
Size, they're overthinking it, I think, a little bit, but
yeah, I won't understand that one.
Yeah, I mean, because we literally did this with Brian Burns a few years ago, and now Brian Burns is one of the most highly productive and highly paid edges in the NFL currently for your New York Giants, right? So I mean, like, I understand body type stuff, but like I look at his frame and I'm like, that kid can put on weights, and I think he could hold 250 plus, and it'll be fine. But at the end of the day, you just don't see many cats in the NFL that can change direction the way he can, that can corner the way he can. He is rare athleticism. So yes, I think that some are overthinking him slightly in this class.
Any other thoughts on the board before we close up here?
Malcolm Starks is good, man. You're too low on him. I don't know what else to say about him.
I'm not low on him. What are you talking about? It's just some other really good football players that I put ahead of him.
Man, I have a comp for him that I'm not going to put on this channel yet, but like it's there.
Okay, will you tell me after?
Sure, I'll tell you after. Yeah.
Oh, well, on that note, we're going to close out at Joe DeLeone, at Rise and Draft, at the First Team Pod. Hit subscribe, 5-star review. We're going to be back. Moving on to in-season scouting, we're going to do things a little bit differently with just the two of us. We're going to scout games. We're going to talk about the guys that stand out, the best players that you need to know that are maybe driving up their stock. All that's going to be coming during the regular season. Folks, it's nice talking to you. We will catch up with you soon.